Good morning to our YouTubers. How you guys doing? This is good old Grandmaster Evan here, and you're watching the Anonymous Liberty Media, affiliated with the Worldwide Resistance Network, also known as TWRN. It is 11:42 a.m. and it's January 15th, 2018, and it is Martin Luther King Day. Now, there was a false alarm fiasco in Hawaii. And the New York Times reported on it too. It says, reports here, Hawaii false alarm hints between mishap and nuclear war. Now, the nuclear experts are warning, using some of the most urgent language since President Trump took office, that Hawaii's false alarm, in which states agencies in non-existing missile attack, unscored of growing risk of unintended nuclear war with North Korea. To understand the connection, which might be obvious, you need to go back to the tragedy of Korean Airline 007. 35 years ago, well, in 1983, bound for Anchorage to Seoul, South Korea. Straying into a Soviet airspace, air defense officers mistaking it for an American spy plane that has been trying to establish contact. Shots came. No response came. They shot it down, killing all 269 on board. But the graver lesson may be had been a mistake, a downing by mistake. Sorry. Mutual distrust and the logic of nuclear deterrence, more so than in death themselves, that Washington and Moscow heading towards a conflict neither wanted. Really, on this, it's a really I don't know if it's well, it does. Well, let's go back to 83. Okay, 1983. I was about not even, well, 83. That's 35 years ago, and a lot of things happened from 80 to 85, 86, and but this false alarm fiasco type moment is kind of a, I don't know if it could be considered a decision failure or kind of a whatever you want to call it. I mean, you guys are watching the video below. The story illustrated how imperfect information, imposters, and a minute-long response times brought both sides hurtling towards possible nuclear war. A set of dynamics that can feel disconcertingly familiar today. Reagan had taken office in 1980. Reagan, 1981. Front the Soviet Union, which he called it the evil empire. It looks like Ronald Reagan was a Star Wars fan. Now, he intended to deter Soviet aggression. Moscow read his threats and condemnation. He had declared its government an evil empire that must be brought to an end as prelude to war. Mr. Trump's White House has issued its own threats against North Korea, suggesting that it might pursue war to halt the country's nuclear weapons development. Okay, now let's go back to this here, okay? North Korea has the world's smallest air force, the world's smallest navy, but has soldiers that want to put their lives on the line for their devotion to Kim Jong No Nuts. This little bastard has been threatening to shoot nuclear missiles at the U.S. for a few years now, and there were many tests that were ran and done, and it seems to fail all the time. Every moment he tries, it fails in a very big way. Now, why would it do that? Because Jong Un's family, his father and his grandfather, isolated North Korea. They isolated the citizens of North Korea. And it's pretty much that Kim Jong Un wants to continue. What's it here? His people, and wants to use continuously propaganda to brainwash more. Have wanted to defect because they feel oppressed. They feel constricted of not being themselves. They want to be themselves, but you got this little bastard Kim Jong No Nuts, or Kim Jong Can't Get It Up. Really has no idea what he's doing. I mean, he's like a child playing with a fucking hand grenade here. It has this little. He's playing with it a grenade, and very unstable. Okay, the 1983 shooting down of its own might have passed a terrible mistake by, but the superpowers had only a fragmentary understanding of something that had happened of Soviet territory. In an atmosphere of distrust, technical and bureaucratic snafu drove each to suspect the other of deception. Now, the Cold War started from 1947 to 1990. Yeah, 1990. That very long. Moscow receives contradictory reports as to whether its pilots had shot down an airliner or a spy plane. Soviet leaders were biased towards trusting it their own. So when they declared it a legal interception of the American military incursion, leaders were lying. Moscow held down the airliner deliberately to conclude in an act of undeclared war. At the same time, Washington made a nearly perfect minor image set of mistakes, suggesting that such misreadings are not just impossible but dangerously likely. President Reagan, furious at the loss of deliberately targeting civilian airliner, he denounced Soviet society itself as rotten. Like a assessment, including in the president's daily briefing that morning, had concluded it was likely an error. Mr. Reagan appeared to have simply missed it. The Cold War was like a big, giant chessboard, and each piece carefully and covertly moved. As soon as Mr. Reagan was lying about their intention, Some concluded that he had somehow lured the aircraft was cover for a massive preemptive strike, which they feared might come at any moment. Each read the others blundering and dissembling as intentional that the other side was laying the groundwork for war. And if war was coming, the logic of nuclear deterrence all but required firing first. Now, the time, it was kind of a spy versus spy. Did you ever read that in the Mad Magazine? It was spy versus spy. We had the CIA, and Soviet Union had the KGB, which was formed during like before or after World War II. But missile crisis, the Cuban Missile Crisis, a U-2 spy plane. I was a B-2 or U-2 spy plane. They shot down and captive. No, we entered Soviet airspace. We flew over them. We thought we couldn't see anything. We were shot. The plane was shot down. The pilot was captured, and there was a prisoner swap. But Soviet Union kept the plane. They were studying the work, the technology of it, and what came out of it was the SR-71 Blackbird, one of my favorite planes of all time. Now, nuclear armed missiles had recently achieved the level of speed and capability that one power could completely disarm another in a matter of minutes. So this created something called the first strike instability, in which firing first. Let's see here. Firing first, even if you think you might be firing in error. Is this only way to be sure? Consideration to the brink of war over provocations or even technical misreadings. Often officials had mere minutes to decide whether to retaliate against seemingly real or impending attacks without being able to fully verifying whether an attack was actually underway. In the logic of nuclear deterrence, firing would have been a rational. Soviet Union took over the eastern part of, because Germany was split into 4 parts. You had West Germany and East Germany. Okay, and from they had the wall. The wall was already up, and they were splitting Germany into 2 parts: Eastern Germany and Western Germany, which lasted until, well, 89, 90, when Reagan said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down these wall, or tear down this wall." And each word was like a hammer. Tear down this wall, and it was heard around the world. And now we got could we have another Cold War? With how long will that last? Okay, like a child playing with a grenade. And pretty much you would think, okay, here we are, we're in a position where at any time, at any moment, that we could be hit. We could be hit at any time because it's been trying to build a nuclear missile. Okay, like I said, North Korea has a very small navy, a very small air force, and a very small tank brigade. And it might look like that we are in a Cold War, but a kind of a mini Cold War with North Korea. With one side, very good. Okay, I'm saying. Now we got here that dynamic is heightened with North Korea, which is thought our heads the destruction and event of a war. Today's post-warm in Hawaii, a reminder that big risks we continue to run by relying on nuclear deterrence and prompt launch nuclear posture. Kingston Reef and Allen enlist with the Arms Control Association to the strategy of firing quickly in a war. And while deterring containing North Korea as far preventable war, it's not risk-free, and it could fail. Now, as you know, North Korea has tried to try to launch satellites or try to launch kind of war somehow ends up in disaster. I mean, North Korea is using old Cold War weapons. I'm saying they're using tanks, older working tanks, the T-34s, and they got. I mean, their navy is about 5 to 10 boats minimum, and they are old as you know what. Their planes, they're flying old MiGs. I mean, they couldn't last because we are so advanced in comics and stuff. So I mean, you gotta think, who would win between us and North Korea? Okay, I mean, you gotta look at the big picture here. Okay, North Korea, they're using Cold War weapons like tanks and ships and stuff. Very small bit here, and we've got a huge arsenal, a huge military, a huge navy, a huge air force, a huge army. We are up there with China militarily, okay? And we're also up there with somehow Germany, because Germany has a pretty good military as well. But right now we're looking at, okay, North Korea's Hawaii. And I'm reading here of what the oh, I'm sorry, guys. Please bear with me. Of what the New York Times reported, along with other outlets out there, if similar misunderstandings seem impossible today, consider that an initial White House statement could call Hawaii's exercise, though considered that an initial White House statement called Hawaii's alert an exercise, though state officials say it was a operator error. Elapsed before emergency systems sent a second message announcing the mistake. If even Washington has misreading events, Pyongyang must have been far greater. Now, what are the odds? Okay, what are the odds of? Okay, gotta think. Gotta think for a moment here. What are the odds of that North Korea actually succeeds in building a nuclear rocket or nuclear missile here? And it hit Hawaii in a very terrible way, scary way. Then that would be a North Korea's own Pearl Harbor attack, which I don't want to see happen. I don't think anybody want to happen because we're already in the Middle East. We're in there for almost 20 years. Okay, and this is a very touchy moment. We've been in the Middle East for how long? Since 2001, 2003, almost 20 years, and we need to leave. Can't say it's still there forever. Had the turmoil unfoiled during a major crisis or period of heightened threats, North Korea leaders could have misread the Hawaiian warning as cover for an attack. Much as the Soviet had done in '83, American officials have been warning for weeks that they might attack North Korea. Though some analysis consider this is likely a bluff, officials in Pyongyang have error. Bipin Narang, a nuclear scholar at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, suggested any possible scenario using shorthand terms to refer to the president and his nuclear command system, which Mr. Trump has nearby at all times. His alert on his phone about an incoming towards Hawaii, pulls out the biscuit, turns to his military launch nuclear weapons and North Korea. Mr. Narang wrote on Twitter, adding, "Think it could happen." Unlikely in '83, no one died in Hawaii's false alarm, but deaths are not necessary for a mistake to lead a war. Just 3 months after the airliner was shut down, the Soviet early warning systems falsely registered a massive American launch. Nuclear war may have only been averted because the Soviet officer in charge Hunt reported North Korea is far more vulnerable than the Soviet Union was to North Korea is far more vulnerable was to a nuclear strike, given its officers an even narrow window to judge events and even greater incentive to fire first. And unlike the Soviets, who maintain global watch systems and spy networks in of blindness. That means they are so isolated from the world. They don't know the citizens don't know if they're being attacked or not, or they are so isolated. Kim Jong can't get it up, has isolated his own people, and if they did not declare loyalty to this little bastard holding the grenade in his hand, then they are in danger. Here's a guy who's mentally unstable, have no idea what he's doing. Okay, he is having more. I mean, he's a child with a hand grenade ready to drop it at any time. What will it happen? We don't know. It's a very scary moment for even for them. For all power of nuclear weapons, scholars say that the greatest danger comes from the uncertainty they create and the fallibility of human operators who must read every single perfectly for mutual deterrence to hold. In 1983, Washington and Moscow took steps that heightened the uncertainty darkly at each other's illegitimacy and threats of massive retaliation. In a contest for nuclear supremacy and survival, each was gambling that they could go to the brink without human error pushing them over. William J. Perry, a defense secretary under Bill Clinton, called the false alarm in Hawaii a reminder that nuclear war is not hypothetical. Accidents have happened in the past and humans will err again. President Reagan concluded the same, writing the memoir, the KAL incident demonstrated how close the world had come to nuclear nuclear precipice. And how much we need nuclear arms control. Mikhail Gorbachev, who soon after took over the Soviet Union, had the same response, later telling the journalist Dave Hoffman a war could start not because of political decision, but just because of some technical failure. Let's see here. Mr. Gorbachev and Mr. Reagan reduced their country's stockpile and repeatedly sought. They never quite reached agreement to manage nuclear weapons from the world. But Mr. Trump and North Korea's leader, Kim Jong, can't get it up, remained locked in 1983. Ensuing provocations and threats of nuclear strikes on gambling that and ours will continue to hold. Now, that is just insane, you know. But I mean, if we're locked in 1983, then we are 35 years fucked. There's also another report of the shooting that happened last year in Las Vegas, Nevada. One of my favorite towns in this country, in the state of Nevada, Las Vegas. Hooters and hot rods in Nevada. Now, October of last year, which 59 were killed and 500 were injured, and many witnesses that was there mysteriously died out of nowhere. And it's a very scary moment. That it's kind of like Las Vegas' own 9/11, and JFK kind of shit. So, witnesses in the JFK assassination were mysteriously murdered, died, and then you got witnesses of 9/11 that died, and one of them was Barry Jennings, who worked in Tower 7. Now the shooting in Las Vegas was a shock in the shit barrel. On why are witnesses mysteriously dying here? Now, I would think that maybe somebody knew something. And someone mentioned there were shooters on the 4th floor as well as the 35th floor. They were somehow mysteriously dead in a very mysterious way. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to, I mean, more going to die soon. No, I'm just saying that it's kind of odd that witnesses are starting to die. Now, a couple who were headed home mysteriously died in a one-car accident. And I mean, why are witnesses dying? Okay, I mean, why are they dying all of a sudden? Okay, you gotta think and ask that question. Why are they dying? Okay, now one of the things is the custodian guy who supposedly was on the Ellen DeGeneres show, if it was the guy, helped the shooter take bags, which was full of guns and shit, up to the 35th floor. Now, how the shooter died is kind of mysterious because there's a picture of him dead. Okay, he looked like he was shot in the mouth and went out the back of his head. And I would probably think that maybe he was shot. I mean, if he was shot in the mouth and went out the back of his head, he might. If he was shot by a sniper, that would be a lucky shot. 1 out of a trillion. In my opinion, one out of a trillion odds that shot happening. Now, but FBI knew it, which there was some theories that the FBI killed him and planted people of their own, and they basically shot the guy and did it themselves, or the guy actually did it, or he had a partner that did it. That was along, because there was 2 busted windows on the 35th floor. Okay, did they go back and forth, or did he had more help? Because witnesses started to say that there was people on the 4th floor as well as the 35th floor. I have a weird theory, but could it happen? Maybe. Well, and it did happen. I don't know. But all I know is there was one shooter, from what we were told. Now, I got a chance to hear the audio of the police radio saying that there's a. I mean, even officers were kind of baffled here because the sheriff of Las Vegas County, he tried to answer the question, but the FBI had control of the situation. It seems that the FBI had control of the area. Sheriff was fearing for his life. And there was two agents. There's two agents at every press conference because they did not want anything spilled. I mean, every reporter was asking a question about certain. Nah, can't talk about it. Why? But also, being a journalist can be a hazard to your health because you're trying to do your job. You're trying to get the story to report. You're a freelance or you work for a paper, the AP, the New York Times, the Washington Compost, and so on and so forth. That but the whole shooting was a cover up. There's a cover somehow there's a cover up in the shooting. If you notice during the Jason Aldean concert, the dude ran off the stage. Now, number two, the lawyer for Jason Aldean somehow mysteriously died. Think about it. Jason Aldean's lawyer died mysteriously. My theory on that is it was a hit to silence the lawyer. Even though he didn't. I mean, did he know something or didn't he know something? He didn't have to die. Now, the whole cover-up is around the girlfriend or the brother. Okay. Did the FBI know something in advance? Did they know in advance of what's going on in Las Vegas back in October? People are still wanting to know because 59 people died. Okay, 59 families in shambles, grieving badly, big time, and they're grieving. 500 people were wounded. Almost 600 people died. And died. Over 500 wounded. And they're blaming it on bum stock. These motherfuckers do not know what a bum stock is. Okay? A bum stock is it's like a cushion. It's like a spring. Okay. Without the bum stock, the weapon you're using can easily damage your shoulder because the gun you're using has so much force. Each fire, boom, 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 it's putting pressure on the shoulder. And the bum stock is like a spring. It cushions. It prevents any damage to the shoulder. So they're trying to, well, let's ban the bum stock. Really, you want to ban the bum stock? You can't do that. It's a spring. It's like spring. A shot. Dum, 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 dum. It's like a cushion. It's like a trampoline, kind of like a semi-trampoline and semi-cushion. And the left wants to ban the bum stock. Why do you want to ban the bum stock? It had nothing to do with the fucking shooting. Can't blame this. you blame the person that's using the gun. You can't blame part of the gun. It's like the AR-15 was blamed because of the Columbine shooting or the Aurora shooting or the 2001 shooting or the supposed Sandy Hook, which was debunked many times. Over 1,000 plus rounds were fired. Over 1,000 rounds were fired. Now that's kind of a crazy thing. A total of 7 witnesses died. One of them was a 28-year-old mother. Started a support group to investigate what happened that day. Supposedly she died of stress and it caused her to have a seizure. I doubt that. I mean, she wanted to start a little support group or with other witnesses, and just wanted to investigate into the shooting that happened. But it seems that you're not allowed to investigate the shooting. Only FBI and the Sheriff's Department in Las Vegas can. This would give internet sleuths a reason, a very huge reason, to do so. I mean, if you have internet sleuths who's working on the Zodiac killer case thing, hey, you have internet sleuths everywhere. Wanting to do this, wanting to investigate this, investigate that. It's something that, and hoping to find something that the FBI and law enforcement hasn't found. I mean, you have citizen journalists, freelance, doing the work. I mean, shit, they're still investigating Sandy Hook. They're still investigating a few other shootings and shit. You know, I mean, it's like we want to know what caused. If it was the shooter, or I mean, it might be a cover up on the shooting on. If it wasn't the guy that supposedly did the shooting, who did it anyway? Who pulled the trigger? Who fired all these rounds? Was it a team event? Was there 2 people at the top at the 35th floor and more on the 4th floor? Or was it just one guy? Was the shooter part of some op? Some Manchurian candidate kind of shit? You know, I mean, it's kind of many questions there. I mean, many questions there on what, you know, also what's the cover up? What is the cover up? Was the guy a lone nut, like they claimed on Oswald, or was he just was he blackmailed into doing this? If he was, who did it? Was it the FBI that blackmailed him into doing it? Because it's awfully funny that the FBI is evolved around almost anything or everything. I thought they're supposed to investigate crimes, not create it. Like, stop terrorism, not be a part of it. You know, like during the Bush presidency, you had the underwear bomb or the shoe bomb or what you want to call them. But it's kind of funny. It seems that if you're from Arab descent and a couple of guys and a couple in black suits want to offer you some money for just a little job, and you agree to it, you're basically giving up your freedom. Or if you don't do it, we're gonna lock you up for good. Oh, go fuck yourself, okay? But the shooting in Las Vegas is like it's very questionable. Was the shooter the only shooter? Had all his weapons and shit, or was it already there to begin with, and he had to go there? Blackmailed? I mean, there's possibility that he could be blackmailed. Was it a mafioso guy in Vegas? Does a mom still linger in Vegas? Who knows? I mean, um, was he blackmailed by the FBI into doing this, and for them to cover their own ass by killing the guy? I mean, there are many theories, many questions, and everything else. I mean, it's pretty much that that needs to be looked at. You need to be questioned. You need to be kind of. But why is the sheriff in Las Vegas fearing for his life? And why was that one agent so close to the sheriff? Was the sheriff afraid of this agent? I mean, that's a good theory there. I mean, there was what, 2, 3 agents there, and the sheriff was kind of fearing for his life. I mean, let's go back to the very early '90s in this one, okay? Now, we all know the CIA has been known to traffic drugs in the United States and to some off for profit sell to give money to use the money to finance the Contras in Nicaragua and shit. Now, there was a former detective who just died a few years ago. He ended up killing himself, and he was approached by the CIA into doing a job for them, and he turned it down. And he was part of he was part of the LAPD for 18 years, and his fellow officers and detectives almost killed him for having this information, for sharing this information. Because if you're a cop in Los Angeles or Chicago or New York, or if you're probably NYPD, and you are in this position, okay, in this position where you're approached by the CIA to help, distribute drugs to the poor part of Los Angeles to finance a war that the Contras were having in Nicaragua. And if your life was threatened because you had this information, I mean, your life can be threatened if you supposedly betray your own boys in blue. because you form a pack in a police or a sheriff department. And once you become part of that pack, you swore loyalty to that pack or the department big time. Okay? There's a thin blue line, and if that thin blue line is crossed by a sheriff deputy or detective or a police officer or whoever in law enforcement, then that person's life is in jeopardy. There's a good chance your life could end at any moment, at any time. To them, you betrayed your brothers in blue. You betrayed them. Okay? There's a secret society called the Order of Police. The OOP. And their job is to make sure that no officer or any deputy or any detective gets charged with a crime of any kind or ends up in prison out of fear of being killed themselves. You see, that's what a police officer and a sheriff deputy fears. The badge is power. The gun is power. The uniform is power. It's control. It's the ability to oppress people. Okay. Now, there's been history of officers hindering prosecution, threatening witnesses. If one of their own commits a heinous crime like rape, molestation, child pornography, soliciting prostitutes, also stealing and selling drugs that were in the evidence locker to make a little profit on the side. Now, when this happens, you are looking at, okay, Donnie Brasco, Frank Serpico, back in the 70s, he testified against the NYPD officers that were involved in corruption, detectives, police officers, and his life was threatened. They threatened his life. They threatened his family's life because he exposed corruption, and he basically cracked and broken through the wall of the thin blue line. The thin blue line isn't so thin no more, okay? Because when you look at, okay, what happened in 1992? 1992, Rodney King was beaten by more than 4 police officers, and they were white officers. Rodney King was on the ground, okay, on the ground, okay, and they were taking their batons and just beating this guy nearly the end of his life. And the first case, they were acquitted. Second case, they were found guilty. If it wasn't for that tape, those 4 officers would not have been charged in the second court case. Now, it's been, let's see, 27 years, almost 27 years, no, 26 years since the day it happened. And the first court case of the beating of Rodney King caused a huge riot that cost nearly $1 billion in damages. And people have died, people were wounded, and a lot of chaos. I mean, but what was the good thing about it is the second time, all four were found guilty. Okay, all four were found guilty. Now, in this case, in Las Vegas, in the shooting in Vegas, now the FBI somehow are sticking really close to this one. I mean, really close, like glue. Okay, the sheriff in Las Vegas, to this day, is fearing for his life because he might know more than what was led on to. Because those three agents, the same ones that every time the sheriff has a press conference, somehow they're kind of really there, sticking it like glue. 59 people died, 500 plus injured. Now, one of the witnesses that died was Jason Aldean's lawyer. He seriously died. And all total, 6 to 7 people, witnesses that died. The biggest question is, what the hell is going on? I mean, there's still a cover-up, a huge cover-up, and the cover-up will still be a cover-up until something happens. I mean, until something happens, then well, or now there's nothing to expect. So, well, I mean, you have to really question this. Question it big time. Question it in a very big way. Okay, very big way. Please share this video. I will surely appreciate it. And if you're new to this channel, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment below. And thank you for watching. This is good old Grandmaster Revan signing off. And you've watched the Anonymous Liberty Media, affiliated with the Worldwide Resistance Network, also known as TWWRN. Remember, knowledge is free. If you don't like it, go fuck yourself. Peace out. Revan out.